Hi, Melanie Spring. Thank you for joining me as one of my guests on the Resilient Entrepreneur podcast.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
I really enjoyed our conversation when we got to know each other a couple months back, so I'm excited to have you as a guest. Melanie is a muse to the rebellious, an international keynote speaker, and a guide to bold visionaries who want to amplify their voices, both on and off stage. And you've been an entrepreneur for 17 years now, right? So tell us a little bit about yourself and your business.
Well, since you asked about the how long I've been a business owner, I started my first business when I was in college, but I don't count that. When I was 28 years old when my boss came to me and said, "What would you do if you couldn't work for me anymore?" And I said, "Oh, I'd work for myself." He goes, "Great, you have 30 days."
Ooh,
And that was April 1st, April Fool's Day, 17 years ago. And so since then, I have owned a brand strategy agency for 8 years. I ended up building myself a job. I didn't know that until it was too late. And I was working 90 hours a week, crushing my soul to make things happen. It was super successful, but to my own nervous system's demise. And then I became an international keynote speaker just because I thought, well, I don't want to have to sit behind a desk anymore. So I did that and then moved into teaching people how to speak on accident because people are like, "Ooh, you don't sound like a speaker. How do you do that? Can you teach me how to do that?" And so now I'm a muse to the rebellious and I help people really step fully into the embodiment of who they are. And I use speaking as one of the tools for that.
I love that. And people want to hear like authenticity and like stories and like the brand to the rebellious is really, I love that whole saying because that's what really sticks in people's minds is the storytelling and when people are authentic and not when it's like too rehearsed or scripted or too polished, right?
Right. Yeah, that's what I talk about with speaking is it's not about polish, it's about vulnerability and willingness to have that, oh, this thing really did happen. It's truth. It's the reality of humanity, which a lot of people are like, well, but I have to be a speaker robot and I have to tell people, so move hands this way. Or you could just be you. But most people, if I was to say, just get up on stage and be yourself, people would be like, ooh, I don't
Right.
think that's a good idea. I don't even know who I am. What do you mean I could be myself? I've been picked on for being myself, or there's some trauma around it. So a lot of times it's hard for people to be vulnerable because they're like, well, what if people don't like it?
Yeah. Yeah. I am not a public speaker. I'm doing this podcast for fun, but I have been the president of an IT association where I've had to stand in front of a room of 100 people and like do the present, the state of the organization and introduce the speaker and stuff. I'm just like the intro, right? And I had to do it every month,
Mhm.
and it things would always go wrong. The projector wouldn't work, someone wouldn't have their slides, and so I learned to just like own it,
Mhm.
like, hey, like, oh, the little
Clicker.
cue thing
Mhm.
doesn't work, right? Oops. And like make little jokes about it, and like if you make fun of yourself and like have the humor and don't take yourself so seriously, it takes some of that pressure and the butterflies and stuff off too.
Right.
um
But
and
having like real tools for that stuff instead of like,
yeah.
I just have to, okay, this sucks. But okay, it's going to be great. It's going to be whatever. But there's a lot of people who are like, no, 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 I just need to practice my speech. And I'm like, no, but you, Kate, you have a speech. You have to tell something before someone else gets up and gives a speech. But most people don't think of that as speaking. So when I teach people who are speakers, give someone a bio that they could actually read and then ask them to read it to you because otherwise they're just going to make stuff up. And most people who are introducing speakers aren't actually great speakers.
That's
So being
true.
able to help them be better at this. And this is also, I think a lot of people do themselves a disservice because of exactly that. Like you're speaking all the time, but you're like, I'm not a speaker. And I'm like, but you're speaking all the time. And
Right.
it's the idea of like, we everyday humans need to have these tools to help us not be like, because
Not
everything
me.
does go wrong. Everything
Yeah.
always goes wrong, and that seems to be the case for me. Like, I've had an entire spider come down from 4 stories in the middle of a stage right in front of my face, and I had to stop because little Miss Muffet shows up, and I have to like, "Oh, okay, I've gotta figure out what to do with it." So, like, when you were in the middle of that and you don't have those tools, you're like, "Well, now I'm just gonna die."
Yeah. Exactly. Don't let it freeze. And I think how you handle that adversity is huge too.
Mhm.
Well, awesome. So we're going to get to know you more about your business. So who was the first hire in your business, or is it you? Are you the whole business right
Well, so my first business, when I started this almost 17 years ago, I realized within like a moment, I cannot do this by myself. Do not
now?
want to do this by myself. And I'm a human design 5-1 manifester, which means I am 100% meant to be a leader, not a doer. I have no doing, even though I was trained by doers and people who are like, you must do, that's what you're supposed to, you do things. But I realized that I'm a visionary who sets a vision and I need support. And so the very first person I ever hired was my pastor's wife. She was a part-time pastor's wife slash part-time, like helped with the kids in the nursery kind of thing during the week. And I was like, could you help me do administrative stuff for a bit? And she's like, sure. So for 15 bucks an hour, I paid her to help me and be my assistant. And over the course of 4 years, she became my director of development and was like managing how websites are created. Even though she knew nothing when she started, she was a mom of 3 kids. She was a missionary who had to come back, and she from Africa because her son had autism and they couldn't handle that where she was. So she was like retraining her whole system on what to do. And so I realized that I love hiring moms because they're like
100% agree.
they're the most organized on it. They will get things done in a nick of time. They'll make sure things are done and taken care of, and they'll think about 15 different things at the same time. But that was the most powerful move for me when I first started my business, because a lot of people wait years to do that. And I was like, no, immediately. I needed someone to do this part of the job that I can't, so I can go be a visionary and sell and take care of clients and make sure that things are happening. So I think to this day, the last 2 years are the first time I haven't had an assistant, but I still have like an event planner and I have a wife. I think all straight women should have wives. I have a husband who's wonderful and he's not married to her, but she and I just were like, oh, no, 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 but you are my wife. And you help me with the little things that my husband's never going to think about and that I need a woman to really truly help me with. And so I have like, she's like a personal assistant type person, but she's more of a best friend. And she just helps me with things that like he would never think about. So I think over the course of all the time I've been in this, just knowing myself well enough to know I should not be doing my admin work. Like I recently actually was just talking to a friend who's like, she's like, you don't need an admin. You need an operations team, Melanie. Like, I don't understand how you're doing this by yourself. I'm like, I'm dying. Please
Yeah.
help. And so she's going to start working with me soon too. But like I have my husband who's my marketing department and he's so good at it because he's a digital marketing expert, but I cannot do this by myself. And I think a lot of people can, but I think that was my favorite thing was hiring right away.
And truer words have never been spoken about hiring moms and
Mhm.
like the even like the part-time flexible do this admin stuff for me. It allows them to still be a mom and do the mom things, but also like we are so resourceful as
Right.
women.
Yeah.
And I think our brains just work differently with like you said, the multitasking, multiple tabs open, and the organization that happens from that. I love
Mhm.
that. And we haven't even gotten into like all the good stuff, but and then the whole like hiring to your like knowing your strengths, doing a working genius or a Clifton strengths
Mhm.
or a whatever assessment, knowing what you do really well, and immediately finding someone to complement the
Right.
areas that you don't do well.
Well, and I think it also for the bigger picture helps moms, which ugh,
Yes.
the hiring of moms was probably the most profound thing I ever did because over the course of my agency, I hired all sorts of different people, but the moms were the most beautiful upgrade I ever got because I had a person who she had an art history degree and a finance degree, like a master's in art history, but she also had a finance degree. And she had kids for, I think, 16 years. And she had a big gap in her resume because her husband worked full time and she raised the kids. Well, she came to work for me as my admin, and within like 2 months, she was my operations person. She got us a loan or a line of credit at the bank. She was like streamlining all of our bookkeeping. She was doing stuff that I was like, what in the world? And how did you thank you? But then
Yeah.
she was trying to give us presentations on these are the things we need to be thinking about with our budgets and all that kind of stuff. She saved my butt. But what happened is after each person worked with me for a certain amount of time and it was time for them to move on, They had a solid resume of, I've done this, I'm relevant again,
Yeah.
and I can come do this somewhere else that feels really good, which I have to say we've done such a disservice by not allowing moms to have spaces like my company and other companies like mine to have that space to get back into the game, reset their tools, understand the new stuff, upgrade, and then get the jobs that they're wanting.
I couldn't agree more. And my first passion project when I became an entrepreneur in 2021 was a little company called Recruit Hers,
Mm-hmm.
on that premise of helping stay-at-home moms, realtors, teachers, or whoever learn, train, and gain skills to become a recruiter, to work remotely from home when the kids are in school, do it like part-time 9 to 2, and put them through this training program. The timing of the market didn't work out in my favor. That business no longer exists. All the material exists. It's out there for anyone that wants to buy the product from me and go sell it. But um, supporting working moms and giving them a flexible workforce, the whole move for fractional for me, and my whole entrepreneurial journey has been to be able to have the freedom and flexibility to work when it's convenient for me, when it makes sense for me and my family, so that I can be a present parent and prioritize this key moment of time that I need to prioritize and juggle a family.
Well, I was
That
just
traditional corporate jobs don't necessarily allow that flexibility anymore.
Well, I was literally talking to a lady yesterday who said that she had just their plan was her husband was working, she raised the kids, and they had 6 children in 6 years because their fourth pregnancy was triplets. Right. I was sitting there like, oh my gosh. And the crazy part is, she told me during COVID, her husband got COVID and then his body shut down. And one day he just tipped over, fell over, and was paralyzed moving forward. And for the last 5 years, she's had to go, okay. And they had just built $1 million house in Utah that they couldn't afford anymore because he lost his job. And went through all this stuff. It took them 5 years to figure out what was wrong with him. And he's finally just now, almost 6 years later, just now, finally coming out of it where he's 90% back to where he was. But she had to build a business and take care of 6 children and figure this all out, which I just have to say, when I looked at her yesterday, I was like, dude, I've never had children. I've had dogs for 20 years. That felt like children, but like not to the level of that. I don't understand how it is that we women are able to do that kind of level of resiliency that she was sharing with me. I'm like, I feel like I've done nothing in my life based on what you just told me,
Yeah.
that you've raised 6 healthy children who are not terrible people. And you had to figure this out, because that's the piece of it, is we are able to do that. Everything is figure outable if we decide it is. And so being able to hear that, I was like, oh, Ahmed, I'll
Love
have
that.
to introduce you so she can be on your show, because
Yes, I would love to hear that. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Everything is Figure Outable is a book, right? I forgot the name of the author.
yeah, Marie Forleo.
Yeah, I had listened to it instead of read it in my hand, so it's not on my shelf.
Mhm,
Which is the problem with Audible books, because then you've listened, you've like consumed
mhm.
the content, but it's not referenceable on a shelf somewhere.
Yeah,
All right, we're going to jump right into success.
okay.
So you have been a successful business owner. You've had a couple of businesses. You've evolved from brand and speaking and all the things for 17 years.
Mhm.
What is your proudest achievement as a business owner, and how did it happen? Besides the ones you've just shared, which is the hiring all these amazing, resilient moms to keep you organized and to fill the gaps on your team.
Oh, there's so many amazing things, but I think the one thing I would say that was the biggest success was that I didn't listen to what other people told me to do. And there's a whole man culture, we're just going to call it man culture, that says you got to get to $1 million and that's how you feel successful. And I, for a long time, was like, oh, I need to get to $1 million because that's how you feel successful. Okay, understandable. You have to have a certain number of team members and a certain amount of whatever. And when I had my branding agency, people thought I was kind of crazy because I named it for my imaginary friend, and her name was Cicerina. And so we used to talk about Cicerina and how she'd buy us coffee all the time. We were so grateful that she'd take care of us and whatever. But I hosted 100 events in the first 5 years of my business. I had nothing. I didn't host events. That wasn't the idea. I was a branding agency. But I hosted these happy hours where I got introverts and extroverts together to talk to each other that weren't networking events. So what I did was, when Twitter was a baby, I was like, oh, let's do these things called tweet ups. We'll just meet up and talk about what we tweet about. And so I'd start getting people together. There was like 10 people at the first one, and it became like 100 people at every event. I had thousands of people who came to these events, and it was just the most amazing random thing to do to get eyes on what we were doing, because it had nothing to do with the business that I was running. But I became the person everyone came to say, oh, do you have an accountant? Do you know a lawyer? Yeah, I totally do. Do you know it? Do you know it? And everyone was like, oh, do you know Melanie? Do you know Cicerina? Do you know? And so I think that was the most successful thing I ever did, was something completely outside the box. It was nothing like what anyone else was doing. And to fully set myself apart and go, I want to magnetize the right clients by being the crazy person who named her company after her imaginary friend. And so I think being able to just not listen to what everyone else told me to do and not be so corporate and boring. I was like, oh, I don't want to be
Yes.
serious. What's the point of that? And so like listening to myself, I think was the thing that I would say is the key to the success that I've had.
I I love that, and being real and being genuine and authentic and being you, uniquely you, doing something totally like you said, being bold and rebellious and uniquely you. I think also I had mentioned earlier about the board that I sit on, and a lot of the community service events. I do a lot of things supporting women in their careers and women in tech, the shared thing that we have in common. And when you show up in a community in a volunteer capacity, leadership capacity, create a safe space, create a community, you're not blatantly selling your services, but you're creating brand awareness and a reputation of this connector of people and this giver and this community builder and this value add, and you become the go-to, know everyone knows your name person, right? My thing is connections because of that, because I'm like, do you know Kate? Yes. In RTP, that's the, if you don't, she'll find the right person for you. It might not be her, but she knows someone.
Right.
um and so I think that is a huge part of being your brand, is what do people think about you, and how do you get that, how do you build a community where people know your name and think of you and introduce you to more people and
Right.
do the marketing for you,
Right.
really?
Yeah. Well, what's funny is I did this thing that was crazy like this called Cup of Inspiration. And people thought I was totally nuts for doing this. But every single Wednesday at my office, I would get like bagels or donuts. Or I'm gluten free now, so I would never do this. But we would have coffee, like a little Keurig, which I hate now. I don't understand. Like I was a very different person at that point. But so don't judge me on any of those things. I don't do that anymore. But this idea of like getting people together for an hour every single Wednesday from 8 until 9 a.m. So people could come by my office before they went to work and sit down and have a cup of inspiration, which was the idea that they could come in and ask me anything about marketing, about websites, about branding, about social media, whatever they wanted to ask, free advice every single Wednesday from 8 to 9. Just show up. And I did this for 6 or 7 years, I think. And I got more clients from that because people were like, yeah, I'd fill out your form and I wanted to come like check you out, but like I wanted to know, like I wanted to see you, meet you and like know that you could really help me. And I was like, so now do you know? And they're like, yep. This could never have happened through a sales conversation though, because you weren't selling me anything. And I was like, that. And I think now I think about it as like I was the embodiment of the brand I was building. They wanted to know that I was real. And I gave them a place to come meet the real person that they were trying to work with. And so I think I also lost some clients that way because they were like, ooh, she's a little like out there. Great. Bye.
You're not going to be everybody's, cup of tea, right? So now it would be like tea and fruit, like fruit bowls,
I would
or
do coffee, but I would do really good coffee. And
not
fruit
poured,
for sure,
not
like
poured through plastic. Oh.
maybe some protein.
Protein. I love that
Yeah.
though, and it's like open office hours or something. But like you're going to be there anyways, so you're not like going out of your way. They
I
can
just
come.
get my work done if no one shows up. I'm like, okay. And if 10
Yeah,
people show up or one person shows up, they get my attention. Great.
I love that.
But now
I
you
love
can't do that online because it's online. Everything's online these days. And so I think that there's a big a miss of this where we don't get the in-person touch people, feel into it. So I was just even talking to some ladies about a course that I have that we're working on, like, how do we promote this and stand out compared to all the stuff that's happening? And we started going, well, what if we did some sort of like series where people could join us for a small amount of money to experience us, the embodiment of us, and get a lot from us over a certain amount of time before they actually pay a lot more money to come and do this. And I was like, oh, but it's like, how can we do that online in a way that really feels authentic and embodied and like we're fully here with them? So,
You're right.
mhm.
It's hard, right? Because virtually, like, we would never have connected because you're in Florida, I am in Raleigh, North Carolina, although we have the upstate New York Lake connection, but
Mhm.
we would never have met if virtual wasn't as big as it has gotten.
Right,
And, all of my business before COVID was all just in Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina.
right,
Now, through lots of online networking events and groups and things, have expanded and have customers and people that we know outside of our geographic area because we don't just have to drive and have a cup of coffee with someone.
right.
But like, I just got back from a meeting with a client who was very disappointed in us, who's now like hugged me on the way out and was like, "This was the
Uh,
best meeting." It was you, not, it was us, not you. It was a data problem, not a whatever. And I don't want to give too much away. But anyways, like, that meeting needed to happen in person, right? And you miss that human connect. There needs to be a blend of meetings, I think, in person versus virtual. You build better relationship.
mhm.
I feel I'm way better in person
Well,
than
you
I
treat people differently in person. Like, I think there's a little bit of the like hiding behind the screen thing that we've done. And I think that that's the part where a lot of people are like, oh, but are you real? And I even posted today, there was something I posted on the day that we're recording this. I posted something about my morning and how I could have posted like, oh, every morning I get up and I do my morning pages and I'm so calm and wonderful. And I posted, yeah, I do this and I've done this for 723 days as of today. But it's not because like I'm so embodied and so calm every day. It's the thing that helps me get grounded because I wake up with like 100 million things in my head. And I'd like to say that I don't, but that's not true. And I'm all about radical honesty. So I'm like, I could post this beautiful picture and be like, your morning could look like this too. And it's like, yeah, but you don't understand how much stuff is in my head and how much I'm still working on trying to get that like full calm feeling. And so I think a lot of us are like showing the shiny side of something when the reality of it is the part that everyone really wants, that connection to the truth of it. And so I could pretend to be like, "Oh, amazing. I live on vacation." But then also I'm stressed out of my mind this morning. What am I going to do? So
I, which is a huge, perfect segue to the failure question, because why on this show I wanted to be like, everyone is always like, oh my gosh, you're an entrepreneur. How cool that you work for yourself and you don't have to deal with the corporate BS that we deal with and driving into an office every day, right? And I'm like, yeah, because you only see the success and the achievements and the shiny and the top of
above
the
water.
iceberg.
Mhm.
Yeah, you don't see all of that. I'm underwater, swimming as fast as I can, struggling to keep my head above water. You don't see the below the surface.
Right.
And people don't often share enough about the failures, the
Right.
setbacks, the fact
Mhm.
that, yeah, I have founded 5 companies and I have closed 2 of those companies and I have 3 right now. Like, not
Mhm.
everything is a win, right? And
Right.
so this is the section about if you're willing to share as a business owner about some of the challenges or a mistake or a hard lesson that you needed to learn along the growth journey that you're willing to be vulnerable about and share.
Ugh, I've got so many of them. So I'm just more just like peeking through which one would be the best. So I only learned about 5 years ago about human design, which I wish, believe me, if I had known about human design 25 years ago, it would have changed everything in my career. But I realized 5 years ago that I have a 5-year cycle. And I have been raised by generators who are like, oh, well, you just pick a lane and go. You're just supposed to do one thing. That's your thing. But then there's a whole bunch of people who are manifesting generators who are like, oh, but this is fun. And this is fun. And this is like someone like you who's like, I have 3 businesses. You had 5. Oh my God, that's so amazing. So I'm looking at that going, so you're a man gen. Okay, got it. But it's this bigger idea. And you're probably, I don't know what you are, but it's that idea that like I'm a manifester and knowing that I need to rest is the key to my success. I need to be in a space of like, a calm nervous system in order for me to be successful. Yet I was trained by people to like push and go and make and force and do when being is actually my ultimate best self. I didn't know this. And so when I started my branding agency, I was like, this is the thing I'm going to do forever. And about 4 years in, I started going, ooh, I don't, this is not a good idea. And I took a 7,000-mile road trip by myself because I needed to escape my business. And I called it the Live Your Brand Tour. Because when you call something something, people are like, oh, you're on the Live Your Brand. I would love to be interviewed for your tour. It sounds great. But it was really just me escaping in my little Honda, driving all over the United States, interviewing people about how they live their brand. And so I made it a whole thing. It was successful and whatever. I got it in Entrepreneur Magazine. But what I realized was I was failing because of the fact that I was so out of alignment because I didn't need to keep doing this thing, but I kept forcing myself because I thought that's how you do it. And
Yes.
so I ended up running that business for 8 years. And then when I went to Bali about 9 years ago, I realized, oh my God, what am I doing to myself? No. And I quit. And I would say that I felt like I failed because instead of like setting it up for success and then selling it, I just kept trying to make it work when in
Mm,
reality, it wasn't going to work and be mine forever. So what could I have done differently? I wish I could go back and say, Melanie, set up the systems. I had all the systems. The foundation was there. I had the clients. I had 5 guys. It was my last client. I was like, I knew what I was doing, but like just crashed. And so I became a full-time speaker because I was like, well, that sounds fun. And people were paying me. So it was great, but it was one of those things where I didn't have a plan. And so literally for the last 9 years, I've been kind of like trying different things and putting them on and going, do I want to do personal growth work? Do I want to do speaking? Do I want to do branding? Should I go back to that? And if I could go back and tell myself, I would be like, what if you just didn't and you just sold it and then you figured out a new thing? You gave yourself space, but I never had the space. And so I
yeah.
would love to say, I just now take space. And so I'm going to say this though. I'm literally doing that tomorrow. For 9 days, I'm going to take offline time and just go silent so I can finally, after almost 17 years, go, what do I really want to be doing with this? And how could I just have this be so magical?
I love that. And I think that that should maybe even be an annual like reset
I think it's
with
in every
yourself.
6 months.
So I am not in alignment, but I have a friend who does alignment and like energy work and has, suggested it for me. Um, but she said like, you do you ever go on vacation with yourself? And like that's so brave of you to go on vacation with yourself. And I was like,
Mhm.
no, I'm a people person. I'm always around people. Like I get my energy from people. I'm, a woo and all this stuff. Like and so that's scary for me to think about going. But I think just a reset and asking yourself like, is this the right business plan and move for me to
Right.
continue, or am I forcing it a fit? And I think so many of us have to break free from that. We were told that we had to go to college, get a job, maybe stay with that job like forever, and that you're only
Because the
until you
generations before us did that.
retire, right? And
Mhm.
like that was the expectation. So like being a entrepreneur, being a speaker, being a social media influencer or whatever, following your passion, finding a way to earn money in a different, non-traditional, non-conformist way, right? Is brave, number one, and bold. But I like that reset time. And it doesn't necessarily need to be during the holidays if that's when you have to be around all the other things, right? It can be a
Right.
January reset, maybe.
Right. Well, but what I realized is I kept just going, well, we have to make money and we have to figure out the next thing. And it's just like, just kept going. And I was like, why am I just, if I didn't have to keep going and I didn't have to worry about it, what would I do instead? And every time I've taken a little break, which I did one a year ago for a week, 5 days or something offline by myself, just really just diving into myself, I realized I'm able to magnetize better because my nervous system is calmer, which means people are like, oh, what are you doing? And how can I do that? Like, I want to play in that space because it feels like it's more of an attraction or repelling thing, but it gives me the space to go, could I just be, magic? And then
Yeah.
I come up with the best freaking ideas. Best.
Yeah. I love that. I like that. Yeah, calmness to attract people. Maybe that is the answer. All right. I'm going to potentially, I don't know that maybe I'll just like go check into a local spa that's near here for like one day and night. Maybe I won't go 5 day road trip. Maybe we'll start small. We'll
Yeah.
start small.
Well, but it's
Achieve.
it's also the disconnecting from the phone. It's going, okay, I'm going to take all the social media apps off my phone for 9 days.
Don't bring my phone. Just
I'm
have
not
a
gonna, right,
book,
exactly. You're just like, I'm just
journal.
gonna take a journal. I'm gonna be with myself. But most people have a hard time being with themselves. Like my husband and I took a couple of days off from each other and he realized, oh, I need you to feel good. Ooh, that's not good. I'm like, no. He's like, but that made me realize I'm draining you because I need you to feel good. And I'm like, yes. So the more we can be with ourselves and not needing someone else or not needing, because like I'm 100% woo on Clifton Strength Finders. I'm the top is woo, like 100% winning others over is like my jam. Communication, positivity, like the whole thing. That's my stuff. I
Huh? Those
love
are on my
people.
list too.
Love. Like, we have an open door policy. People have the code to our house. People walk in and out of our doors all the time. We have dogs that we have watching. Like there's always somebody here. But I realized having the full space to go, no, just be by myself, see what comes up, allow myself to just tap into what my own intuition is saying and my higher self is saying, whatever it is that God, source, spirit, intention, intuition thing. But like to be able to tap into that, I know there's so much more there that I'm missing.
Yeah. Yeah. I like
But
that.
calm nervous system. My word for this year was tender surrender, which let me tell you, that feels like on a roller coaster with your hands up, trying not to scream. But at this end of this year, I realized I want my new one to be delightfully calm. Not just calm, because I don't know that I'm that like person to just calm, but delight. Like to be able to delight in things and be like, oh, yes, please. But to have that calm nervous system while I'm doing it, that's my next jam.
I like that. I do pick words of the year. They usually also have alliteration of some sort. So,
Mm.
yeah, I like that. That's perfect. I haven't done it for next year yet. All right. So, like, let's talk about what's next. We're at the end of a year. It's December. We're heading into the new year. What is going on in your future? This is like the little shorter answer questions, but like, what are the plans? How are you planning to grow?
Well, I built a course 8 years ago called Speak with Confidence. And I wrote it quickly right before I moved in with my new boyfriend to Denver from DC. And I had a videographer who set it all up and got all the pieces together. And we were like, okay, we have 2 days to record this entire course, 30 videos in 2 days. Let's go. And I didn't know at the time that I had anxiety. So I had a full on anxiety attack right before I did this. Thankfully, I've since healed that. But we just rewrote and relaunched the entire thing recently. And so as of January 14th, we're doing this course as a live sprint. So we're actually having a 15-time award-winning entertainer and a vocal coach who's retired and is only coming out of this just to help me because she did Broadway vocal coaching. And they're coming together with me to like give people live feedback on their talks, their content, their marketing, how they're all the stuff that they're doing to speak with confidence. And so we were just talking today about doing like a 7 or 10 day challenge at the beginning of the year for people that's super inexpensive, but to bring their stuff to workshop it with us and to play with us and to practice because we're all speaking all the time. Like right now, we're doing this. But how can you make it better? Or if you have to do those stage introductions, how can you be like more Kate on that stage instead of like, I don't want to be a speaker. I'm like, yeah, we're all speakers though. So how can
Yeah.
we sell better? How can we tell people about what we're doing better? How can we get up and do that? So that's what I've been working on. And I wasn't excited about it for a minute. I was like, oh, I have to do this thing and we have to with whatever. And then I started sitting with Darcy and Carol Ann and I was like, oh, this is going to be fun. And how do we get more people to know about this trifecta that I've created? And
Oh,
so it's just
awesome.
going to be like, just jamming. We're like, how do we amplify people by like jamming with them and having fun with them and not being like, become a public speaker? No thanks.
Right.
So
So speak with confidence for the new year. So we'll make sure that this gets published before that new year launch and release, and hopefully this will help
that would
towards
be amazing. Yes, thank
towards
you.
that. Um, and we already talked about a little bit about how you're planning to do that and obstacles. We're kind of going long, but I really want to know more about like how can I help you?
Ooh, how can you help me? I don't know. How many businesses do you have now? 3?
Three, technically.
And what do those businesses do? Now I'm going to flip the interview on you. Tell me about what those businesses do.
Well, we'll take that offline.
She's like, you can't do this to me.
Because this is not for one of the businesses, but they're all consulting services in different ways. It's
Well, I mean,
really,
you're resilient. You're an entrepreneur. There we
yeah.
go.
Yeah, they're all consulting services in different ways. Yeah.
Well, I think the biggest thing for me is that I'm looking for people who are looking to get in front of more people and not just on a stage or public speaking, but like I love getting my hands on someone and helping them embody their full essence, like who they really are. Because that's all I do with everything I've done with speaking, with branding, with all of the healing work that I do. It's really about helping people go, oh, I know who I am. And then they show up that way. And so I think a lot of the work that I've been doing lately is I walk into a room and people are like, ooh, I want whatever she's having. What's that? Like, how do you get to be you? Well, that's how
Yes.
I help people, is helping them be able to do that. So I think that's at the end of the day, I'm looking to reach more people who are not scared of speaking or not like, oh, I don't want to be a speaker. I want to talk to people who are like, how fun would it be if I got to say the things that I need to say on video, on camera, on stage, in a conference, at a sales conversation without feeling like I'm like, oh, I got to get this person to do something with me. I just get to
Right.
embody that so I can magnetize the thing that I want.
Yeah. I love that. And so if anyone is looking at, there's a lot of people that are looking to be speakers, right? Or paid speakers, I guess. I'm in my entrepreneurial phase of my career right now, but I want to in the future be an
Mhm.
author and a speaker.
Yeah.
Um, I don't need to do any of that right now. I can't add any more to the plate right now. Although I think speaking could lend itself to more sales for one of the businesses if it was more aligned. But that's why my podcast is my little project, but it's not about me, it's about other people. So
Yeah.
I was like, nope, we're not going to go into
I
what
was
my
going to
business.
say, I'm like, so we're going to redo this, but we're going to have me interview you about being the resilient entrepreneur.
Yeah, we could flip it. Oh
Ooh,
yeah, guest
let's do that.
host.
Can I do that with you?
That would be fun.
Okay.
That would be
Awesome. We'll
okay.
do that next time.
Then we'll talk about that. Like, how have you been resilient? All right.
Mhm.
This has been great. I like your style and your energy. I can tell that you're very successful at coaching people about being authentic and confident in themselves and their own brand, and that we don't all need to be, clones of each other.
No, I don't want you to
And
be more me, be more you.
yeah, yeah. And so thanks for being honest and sharing and vulnerable. There were lots of stories and snippets in there. So I'm very excited to grab out some of the key quotes and stuff. But this has been really enjoyable and fun. And
Thanks.
I always ask at the end, now that you've been on my show, who do you recommend for me to interview next? You had
Ooh.
mentioned the one mom with the husband and the
Huh?
6 kids and stuff, and I forgot her name.
Carrot
Her
cake.
or anyone else, always looking for new
Yeah.
guests.
Yeah, I have quite a few of them that could totally do this. So yeah.
Very
I'll put
fun.
together a whole list for you and send out little notes. So yes.
All right, and then I'll be the guest on my own podcast
Oh,
with
tell
you
me when we can do that. Yes. Can you fill out my form, please?
as I just need some details.
Can you just give me some details on you? Because we want to make sure we can introduce you to the audience.
I will. That would be awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Melanie. This was a joy.
Thank you. You too.
Stop.